Harness the full potential of your first-party data with NextDrive from Veracast. NextDrive is an all-in-one solution that simplifies your data challenges. It allows you to unite your customer data, elevate your perspective, activate marketing intelligence, and learn insights so you can keep improving your marketing performance. NextDrive powers your data strategy while future-proofing your marketing strategy. Influence and activate your marketing at veracast.com/nextdrive. That's vericast.com/NXTDRIVE.
Hi, I'm Erica Wheelis, food and restaurant marketing reporter at Ad Age, and welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief podcast, our weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. Today, I'll be talking to Jill McVicar Nelson, Chief Marketing Officer of Dunkin. The coffee chain returned to the Super Bowl this year with a star-studded spot featuring Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, and J-Lo. The spot came together in about a month and built on a teaser Dunkin ran during the Grammys. In this episode, Jill will cover how Dunkin got connected to Affleck, how the brand is thinking about bigger, bolder cultural moments over smaller campaigns, and how the pandemic changed customers' habits. Now, here's my conversation with Jill. So Jill, this year marked Dunkin's second Super Bowl appearance with another ad from Ben Affleck. What did you all learn from last year that helped inform this year's spot?
Yes, it was our second appearance in the Super Bowl, although it feels like I've lived about 10 lives, I think, in that time period. Last year, we had just an incredible experience, I think, going to the Super Bowl for the first time. It was unlike anything we had done before. It was kind of a big risk for us, but we wanted to sort of show that the way that Dunkin has evolved our strategy over the last couple of years. We've been trying to really shift the brand to make it top of mind, part of pop culture, really showcase, I think, the fun personality, lighthearted side of Dunkin. I think all of that was kicked off last year in what we created with Ben and with Artist Equity, his agency. And a year later, I think we hadn't really planned to do a Super Bowl ad similar to last year. So you would think that we might have learned better after seeing a lot of success in year one and being a little bit more planful in year two. But I actually think our strategy has been to leave a little bit of room for Dunkin to be flexible in our marketing plans, sort of depending on what we see going on in culture, what moments are really popping, what we're getting excited about, how the brand is performing. And so initially this year, our Super Bowl ad really actually started out of something that we were creating for the Grammys. We had, purchased a spot in the Grammys as part of our upfront inventory buys in media. And we had done something with Ice Spice and with Ben Affleck that was maybe our first foray a little bit into music back in September of last year. And so as we were thinking about ways to create a spot for the Grammys that was kind of in line with the theme of the Grammys, that was maybe a little bit leaning towards music and kind of building off of some of what we had already done, Artist Equity came to us with this concept that just felt like it had to be a two-part series. And so we very quickly pivoted. I mean, this is like the end of December, I think, is when we made the call and said, let's see if there's even any inventory in the Super Bowl available to make this 2 chapters. And from there, really created a spot that I think was fun and obviously very well received and that we've been thrilled with the performance of. But I would say what we learned from the first go round is just the power, I think, that putting the brand on the big stage really can have for us. We like to balance brand messaging with some of our more transactional efforts. But what's really important for Dunkin' and what our strategy has been is to make Dunkin' part of every American's daily ritual. We are, a coffee, breakfast, on the go, speed leader, and ritual and really driving a lot of volume through our restaurants is something that we've been focused on and do really well. And so I think the balance of having a little bit of brand messaging and just continuing to put us top of mind for people in fun, relevant ways has worked really nicely to complement what we do on the marketing calendar side. And so going in year 2, we just wanted to kind of replicate that success, I would say.
So I know that part of the Super Bowl ad, this kicked off the new Dunkings menu. So where did the idea for this menu come from? Was it based on certain consumer insights? And my personal question, was it meant to attract more male consumers?
Well, so, as I said, this campaign started and really came to life very quickly. I mean, truly over the course of about a month, we bought a Super Bowl spot. We came up with a really fun concept and script. We hired talent. We, did everything, made tracksuits and merch and loyalty codes and a menu. So everything happened really quickly. On the menu side, I think that spoke to was the power of being able, when you do these bigger brand acts, and when we're really just promoting sort of something that's fun and lighthearted and not necessarily focused on driving just one particular product or message, we love wherever we can to attach some type of a product or something that really gives consumers a reason to maybe come into the restaurant, or even to, try something that's a little bit out there. Like the Dunkin's iced coffee and the Munchkin skewer. I like to joke it's sort of the Dunkin version of a martini, is kind of what it looks like. And it's just fun and it's delicious. And they're products that really, Dunkin does quite well and really leads the industry in. And so the ad was not designed to specifically promote the menu, but it, I think, kind of speaks to the power of the Dunkin culinary innovation team to be able to create really fun items that appeal to a lot of people, which, iced coffee and donuts certainly do. It was not meant to attract any particular audience, I think. And if you look, we had the iced coffee, we had the Munchkin skewer, which were kind of shown in the ad, but we also had an exclusive menu that was available on our app to really give our loyalty members something kind of special to try. And there were a lot of different products featured there that I think actually touched on a lot of different audiences. Things like our refreshers, which are non-coffee and tend to skew a bit younger and more female. Everything breakfast sandwich, maybe a little bit more male leaning, but we wanted to give our guests kind of a fun way to engage outside of just the ad, but to give and outside of the ad and the tracksuits, to give them some special products to sort of give a nod to the ad.
I want to ask in particular about working with Ben Affleck and Artist Equity. So I know this is the second time that you guys have worked with them. They did the last year's ad as well. Outside of Ben Affleck being, he's a Boston native, he is an organic Dunkin fan. How did you all originally connect with him? Did you guys call him? Did he call you?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, so all of this started a little over a year ago. We were about to launch, we were working on launching the Dunkin' Run value menu, which was really one of our first national value platforms that we'd had in a while. And it kind of centered around this idea of how do we elevate the vernacular that people use all the time. Everyone says, hey, I'm going on a Dunkin' Run. Does anyone want something, or can I get you something? But that phrase, Dunkin' Run, I talked earlier about it's really important to us that we be a daily ritual for everybody. We really believe that we have the right value, the right menu, the right offerings to kind of fill that need for people. And so the Dunkin' Run is such a symbol of that. And when we were kind of brainstorming at the time how to bring that to life and who the face of the truest Dunkin' Run really was, that was kind of at the time when all of the memes of Ben Affleck picking up his delivery of Dunkin' or juggling like 4 iced coffees in his hand from Dunkin'. There was so much just kind of natural, fun pop culture talk about Ben Affleck and Dunkin' and the love affair that we felt like he was such a great representation of what that meant, and had no idea if he would ever say yes or be interested. But that conversation is kind of what opened the door to working with him as talent. He, at the same time, was really kicking off the advertising arm of Artist Equity. And so really brought, way more to the table than we would have ever imagined he would do. Not just talent, but truly, his creative, it was really him who pushed us from the original Dunkin' Run concept to kind of what it turned into. And then ultimately that drive-through spot that we ran in the Super Bowl last year was him really just saying, look, for fun, I would love to work in a restaurant, do something undercover. I think it'll be more interesting to people than a really highly produced ad. And we listened to him, and he was right. He and his entire team at Artist Equity are just some of the smartest, sharpest creatives when it comes to, I think, really understanding what consumers are interested in and how to really grab people's attention. I mean, it is just so hard, I think, for any brand in advertising to really get people to pay attention. You know, everyone has these short attention spans and people are consuming messages everywhere in non-traditional ways. And so what I feel like Artist Equity has really brought to the table in a special and unique way is they're just intuitive, I think, understanding of what's going to resonate and be culturally relevant and kind of take off and go a little bit viral, and the creative thinking and really beyond just the ad. I mean, thinking through all of the different ways that things like the merch that we launched, things like dropping a track on Spotify, which I don't think anyone ever dreamed Dunkin would be an artist on Spotify. But that type of out of the box creative thinking, I think, comes from them as a bit of a non-traditional new agency. And it's exactly when I was thinking through, how do we keep this amazing 70-year-old brand that people know and love, you know, across the country? How do we keep it relevant and maybe a little edgier, maybe a little bit more of a fixture in headlines and culture and everything? And, you know, to work with that group, and truly it's Ben, but it's also his whole team, I think, has been really successful and a great experience for us.
And let's be honest, makes it easier to put the ask to J-Lo. I mean,
much, yes.
much
I do not have a direct line of to J-Lo by any means.
So how are you all balancing working with Artist Equity and your AOR, Leo Burnett?
So, you know, in general, I'd say we've been kind of evolving our approach working with agencies as well to reflect some of what I've talked about around changing how we think through Dunkin's strategy, and particularly, I think, how it relates to our advertising and communications. For years, we were very LTO driven. You know, it was every 8 weeks we would change messaging on different new products that we were launching or new value offers. And over the last year, you've probably seen us do a little bit less, you know, fewer ads, maybe fewer messages, but going, you know, fewer, bigger, better, really trying to lean into bigger moments, higher visibility, maybe higher quality content. And so as part of that, we really are kind of evolving the traditional model of working with agencies to say we want to work with, you know, a variety of different partners in areas that they do best in. And so we work with a lot of different agencies, but, you know, we've been doing certainly a lot more with Artist Equity, and we'll continue to do more with them in the future, given a lot of the success that we've seen in our recent efforts.
Great. My follow was going to be, are we going to see more of Ben Affleck in any upcoming content?
I mean, stay tuned. Never say never. Like, you know, didn't believe we would necessarily do another Super Bowl ad this year, and then 1 month later, there we were full force making another one. So never say never in terms of maybe putting Ben in front of the camera again. But we are working with Ben and his entire team that we're doing a lot more of through Artist Equity, which is not necessarily him in front of the camera, but really leaning on him more and his full team to think through creative ideas for Dunkin and continuing to find ways to replicate some of these really special moments that have been seen and talked about. And I think that drive such great affinity for the brand and really have worked out well for us. So we're going to do more, certainly, with Artist Equity. But in terms of talent, I don't know. We like to joke that it's the Dunkin cinematic universe, and we keep adding more people. I mean, Tom Brady got in there, Jack Harlow, Fat Joe. So we've sort of liked to authentically, I think, stretch some of who we work with in terms of talent, kind of stemming from our tried and true Ben from last year.
Let's take a short break to hear this message from our sponsor.
Marketers today face an unprecedented data dilemma. Uniting customer data, deriving actionable insights, and creating meaningful and personalized connections with those customers is a challenge in the post-cookie world. NextDrive, the customer data marketing platform from Veracast, helps marketers harness the full potential of their first-party data and find the right signals in the noise. Learn more at veracast.com/nextdrive. That's vericast.com/NXTDRIVE.
Welcome back to the Marketer's Brief podcast. I'm speaking with Dunkin CMO Jill McVicar Nelson. Okay, so moving away from the Super Bowl, I wanted to ask about Dunkin's overall media mix. You touched on this earlier. We want to do maybe fewer but bigger moments, but just in the day to day, can you tell us a little bit about like, are there certain channels where you guys are seeing more return or more traction? Are there any channels where you are pulling back resources?
We really have a pretty balanced approach, I would say, when it comes to performance marketing and brand building. And one of the benefits I think that Dunkin' has compared probably to others or even the last few years is we are part of Inspire Brands, which has a collection of different brands in the restaurant industry, as well as a really, really robust, talented commercial group team that sits across all of the different brands and provides unbelievable resources around measuring everything, measuring our media mix, creative testing, copy testing, really pushing and working with our media partners to get great spots and great rates for us as a portfolio. And I think we really do feel quite a benefit from that portfolio to get access to strong analytics that can help us think through exactly your question, which channels we see strong return from. I would say we've really leaned in a lot to things like paid social and different platforms there, but we're balancing that as well with some of these more mass reach moments like the Grammys or the Oscars, or, of course, the Super Bowl, things like that, where we're just kind of prioritizing getting a little bit of visibility and really trying to pair some of where we can put the brand with content that really resonates in that channel. So like I said earlier, the approach for the Grammys and then kind of leaning into the Super Bowl was to lean into music a little bit because of a spot being in the Grammys. So we are really balancing, I would say, the strong analytics and kind of every day looking at where we're performing the most and seeing the highest returns to even, I think, tailor and impact the types of content that we develop as we do a little bit less. Fewer, bigger, better is kind of the mantra that we say a lot, but we really want our media and our creative to be best in class and to really sometimes be a little bit bespoke depending on what we're trying to do. So yeah, I'd say for us, it's always a little bit of a balance, but I think we have the benefit of getting to lean on a robust analytics team to always guide us in the right direction. And then we sort of lean into channels like paid social to even influence the types of content that we're creating. It's why even things that you're seeing from us around, a higher quality, engaging content, what we did for the Super Bowl had so many different arms and legs that really only appeared online and in social and performed quite well. So we've had quite a lot of success, I think, tailoring some of our creative development to what we're seeing in our media performance as well.
Related to that, how has the return to office movement, and I know I feel like we've been seeing some increased competition in the breakfast day part. How does that impact strategy and content as well?
We always stay pretty focused on our plan, which is, as I've said, really trying to continue to put Dunkin' top of mind, drive consideration. I think Dunkin', performed really well throughout the pandemic. And even with the daily commute no longer existing for so many people, we found that a lot of people still wanted a break in the day. Maybe they weren't coming first thing in the morning, but they were coming in afternoon or a little bit early, or later in the morning. And even buying different products. I mean, those were some of the bigger takeaways for Dunkin' from the pandemic, was that people were kind of experimenting more with our menu, buying espresso drinks, buying refreshers, buying donuts in bulk, things that, you don't necessarily have at home, but that are that treat in the day. That actually kind of has carried through even post-pandemic. So I would say the impact that we felt is less from daily, back to office opening up or competition ramping up, and more just continuing to see some of our menu mix evolve and some of the channels that people engage with us in and order from us. So our loyalty program, our ability to order on the go, as opposed to walking into a restaurant, is something that we've seen behavior change quite a lot in. And that, I think, we've adjusted a little bit of our marketing calendar and our plan to reflect that. We had an on the go campaign for the first time in January to really promote the fact that, Dunkin' is certainly known for being fast and convenient and frictionless, but the fact that you can just order through our app is something we hadn't really talked about. So I would say those things we have a little bit more permission now, I think, to put at the forefront of our communications and our advertising than we did in the past, when we were really focused, I think, more on just driving lots of LTO messaging.
Okay, I want to pivot a little bit because Can't talk to marketers today without talking about Gen Z. You were talking about having some more maybe bespoke content for social media, but just in general, how are you all reaching Gen Z? And I guess even deeper to that, how are you speaking to Gen Z, perhaps without alienating older Dunkin' fans?
So the beauty of Dunkin', and something I think that is really unique and special for us as a brand, is the fact that so many people are introduced to Dunkin' at a very young age. A lot of our consumers, their first memories are getting donuts and munchkins after a soccer game, or with their parents on weekends when their parents are getting coffee. Um, and so I think that's a really special moment for Dunkin' to lean into and try to capture in an ownable, unique way, and something that we talk quite a lot about. We want to be the first sip, right? Your first sip of caffeine or coffee as you kind of graduate from donuts and munchkins, and maybe then you go into the frozen, culotta category or refreshers, and then you're in college, or you're finally at that point where you need that cup of coffee in the morning. We want to be there and be that first choice for Gen Z and the next generation that's coming into the workforce and developing that daily routine. But the way that we've approached it has been maybe a little bit more multifaceted than how we've thought through our core guest. So it's not just promoting new products, although certainly a lot of our innovation is meant to really appeal to that consumer and that demographic. Things like iced beverages, colorful, unique beverages, things that look good when you want to share them on social media. Having a variety of customization options, those from a product and a menu standpoint are really important, and we know that. But we also do things like we work with influencers that we know resonate with Gen Z. We launch merch. We do different types of collaborations with brands that we feel like might be relevant. Of course, we lean into social media and kind of have pivoted some of our media mix as well to reflect that audience that we're trying to reach. So there really is, I think, a lot that we do across the board to be relevant with the next generation. And it couldn't be more important to us as a brand, because I always like to joke, I don't think that many people are inventing their daily coffee habit at the age of 30 or 40 or, later in life. Like, it's very important for us that when we think about establishing a daily ritual and being the coffee choice for a new generation, we want to have that affiliation and connection very early on. And so again, it's not necessarily always through just product, but it's, I think, really multifaceted and really making sure that we insert Dunkin' where Gen Z is and where they want to see us is something we try to do.
Looking more broadly, Jill, what are some trends that you are watching in your world? This can be just food marketing or social or just like QSR in general. Just what are a couple of things that you're keeping an eye on?
There's so much fun. There's so much fun stuff that I think is going on in QSR, and it's a fun category to play in and to see how it's evolved. We've been seeing actually a little bit around nostalgia as a trend and sort of the resurgence of some retro trends, how people, how some brands in our industry are thinking through nostalgia, either on the menu or through merchandise or things like that, and kind of different ways of thinking through nostalgia is something we've talked a little bit about. I think on the menu side, the benefit again of being a food and beverage company is that our products are just made to be shared online. And so we love to see how people are naturally creating different types of iced drinks, whether from Dunkin' or not, and just kind of tracking trends of what consumers are actually doing and seeing if there are ways that we can influence our menu and our pipeline through what we see online and on social in particular. But I think in general, as I mentioned, most of the trends that are probably deeper and more impactful on our business are on the menu side, really in iced drinks and people moving more towards ice and a little bit more premium products than what we've seen in the past. I think for the first time ever, consumers under age 35 are drinking more iced coffee-based beverages than they are hot. So things like that have really impacted how we think through future trends and what to develop on the menu side there, as well as loyalty and I think expectations that consumers have for personalization. That seems to be an area, whether it's offers that are directly for me and for value, whether that's exclusive experiences and merchandise and just opportunities. Finding unique ways to recognize loyalty is more and more important, especially in a competitive, crowded space. And so it's something that we are constantly trying to think through unique ways to really lean into. And then, of course, I think to promote the brand in channels that are a bit non-traditional. The balance of paid, owned, and earned media is something we think through a lot, how we can get our message out in front of a very distracted world, and potentially doing that through non-traditional ways. Things like the Grammys or the Super Bowl are great, very high-profile examples of where the brand can kind of be on the big stage, but working with influencers and partnerships and getting the message of Dunkin' out there in different ways than the past is something we certainly are doing more of, and I think I've seen a shift in over the last couple of years.
My last question for you, Jill. What is your go-to Dunkin' order?
I am a cold brew drinker, cold brew, cold foam with whole milk. So very basic. I don't do a ton of customizations, but a medium cold brew with cold foam. And then on the food side, it depends on the day of the week. If we're talking Thursday through Saturday, I'm probably attaching a bakery item of some kind, either a chocolate stick or the new banana bread I'm in love with. If it's beginning of the week, I tend to be a wake up wrap girl. So I vary it up. I experiment a lot on the menu depending on day of week, but my beverage is usually a cold brew with cold foam. That tends to be high energy for me. I need a lot of caffeine.
Same here. Yes. Get that ice pick right between your eyebrows if you haven't had coffee. That's me. Yes. 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
That was Jill McVicar Nelson, Chief Marketing Officer for Dunkin'. And I'm Erica Wheelis, Food and Restaurant Marketing Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardio, and invite you to subscribe to The Marketer's Brief wherever you get your podcasts. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for listening.